Thank you for having me on your show. Thanks.
You are a busy man, dude.
It's been busy. I think I think I'm doing my best with doing everything I can right now with all the suffering that's going on around us in this pandemic, and that's what I'm here for. Doing everything I can. But thank you, Hector, for coming out today too to
Uh,
see.
for sure. I mean, for those who don't know, you are Lalo Montoya, political director of Make the Road Nevada. I met you. I was covering the Nevada caucuses for Latino
Yeah.
Rebels, and I guess you're comms director, or you guys are affiliated with what's that group that you guys are affiliated with? It's a national group you guys were working with, and they had some girl there from that organization.
Um, I think you met some of our comms directors with the Center for Popular
Right,
Democracy,
right.
as well as so they're a national supporter, but we also have we're part of Make the Road States. So Nevada has Make the Road. We have Make the Road Nevada. It's a part of a family of 5 organizations, mostly on the East Coast, and we're the farthest out here to the west.
Oh, really? There's none in California?
Well, we're the farthest out to the west. We didn't make it all the way to California. We're here in Las Vegas.
Man, those people in California are stubborn, man. Like politically, they think like we got our own thing going on. Same thing in Texas, same thing in Chicago.
Yeah, Nevada needed an organization like Make the Road. Make the Road New York has been around for a very long time, over 20 years. And we're continuing on that legacy, building that power here in Las Vegas. It started in 2017, November 2017, after the massacre and that tragedy out of Mandalay Bay at the Route 91 festival.
Yeah, that was terrible. I mean, I had just moved here, and that I was only here for like 2 months, and that happened. The worst shooting in American U.S. history. Um, and
Yeah,
Make the Road New York was behind. It was behind the kind of push to keep Amazon headquarters out of New York, right?
yeah, they kept him out. They, Amazon. I don't know if you've been following the news lately, but Jeff
About to be a
Bezos,
trillionaire. You can't call him Jeff no more. He's a trillionaire. You can't just call him Jeff.
Jeff,
Jeff the trillionaire.
name's Jeff.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said that on another podcast that he makes like $9 million an hour,
Right.
and he's a trillionaire, and that's on the backs of thousands, tens of thousands of workers. Even before
Yeah.
this happened, you saw, how they have those sensors on their wrists. They're monitoring how fast you're moving. People were getting into car accidents. People were getting to injuries in the warehouse, right? Broken legs, broken limbs. And now with the coronavirus, I mean, can you tell us kind of what's happening at Amazon and places like that? The horror stories with the workers.
Well, Make the Road New York, the community there in organizing, grassroots, people, and just to tell you a little bit about Make the Road, and then we can talk about a little bit kind of how I got here. But
For sure, man. Like that's an interesting story. I remember that conversation we had in the parking lot. But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, like I said, we're the farthest out here, and the organization Make the Road is led by youth. I mean, led by yeah, we do have a youth chapter now. We have a youth organization now called the Youth Power Project, but it's led by its members. It's the goal is to have it not only be led but also funded by the members. So Make the Road New York, as it's been open for more than 20 years, they provide not only advocacy services but also survival services, and hopefully Make the Road Nevada here will get there one day. But we come out of the goal here is to empower our gente so that they can make their voices heard and fight for policies that are going to improve the quality of life of all families here in Nevada, um, and beyond, right? Because as we fight here, we're also in solidarity with the workers, like you said, or the working poor all across this country, all across the world. Really, it's an international fight. As we're seeing the wealth keep going to one person named Jeff, or a couple people, and we're all left out of this, out of that prosperity. Even though, like you said, it's on the backs of our people, and it's only been more. It hasn't been any clearer. The pandemic has shined a light on all the issues we've been fighting for around worker rights,
Exactly.
housing, tenant rights, immigration reform. I myself have DACA. I was there when we fought for it, pressuring President Obama back then. This is this is a huge movement, and we are a small piece, but a powerful piece here in Nevada. And I'm proud to have this role and serve as a political director. But there's just so much more that comes with this responsibility. There's a responsibility to, I believe, I've been having a lot of conversations throughout the pandemic, and I don't know about you, but I've been having a lot of internal conversations
Oh yeah.
with myself. I actually took up mental therapy as well, because being at home, losing that human connection, right, requires so much more creativity, like you saw today. How do we make our voices heard in a moment where we can't just go out and chant our lungs out and do the direct actions we do? How do we do it?
Well, speaking about today, tell people where we just came from, where I just came from.
Where we were just at, one of our partners, the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, helped us host a car caravan. It was all socially distant, as you saw. We told everyone all this
was
stuff.
the first thing I did as soon as I saw you. I'm like, "Hey, Lalo!" You're like, we're practicing social distance." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
Yeah, stay 8 feet away. 8 feet, not even 6 feet. I say
Yeah.
8 feet. Because there's people that we go back home to, our grandmas, our little ones. I don't know if you saw in the cars, there was families there with their kids.
Wow.
And it was a really cool action because we were there to demand that those landlords, those corporations that have been benefiting from all the bailouts, that their bill is due. They need to pay. We're demanding that we need to make them pay for the folks who lost their jobs. Nevada's at a 30% unemployment rate right now. And it's even deeper than that because that doesn't count the people who are undocumented who were working.
That doesn't count the people who don't file for unemployment, right? Who were just given up.
Correct. Yeah, people who just gave up and are trying to make it. They're trying to survive. This is a really, really big deal. It's a disaster. It's a crisis. And all we can do is continue to lift up the stories. Continue to lift up the stories. Put the stories in front of the people that have to make the decisions when it comes to budgets and when it comes to where the money's going to go and who's going to get the relief. And we got to keep putting that out there. And we see some good things come out of that. You know, the governor and the state here.
Yeah, how do you think the state of Nevada has done? I say it's done pretty well compared relatively to what other states are doing. But I mean, obviously there's more that can be done. So
the way I look at it, yes, the governor has done everything that he can to keep people safe.
And we have a democratically female-led state legislature, right? Legislature.
It's a women-led legislature, one of 4 legislatures led by women in the whole world. And
I'm from Chicago, so when I came to Nevada, I thought you guys were all cowboys. Well, you're from Colorado, right? But
yeah.
When I came to Nevada, I thought everybody was a cowboy. You know, I thought it was all like Republicans, and Nevada's actually pretty blue, pretty progressive.
A lot of folks have moved in, and a lot of folks have not only moved in. It's not as transient as it used to be. More folks are setting roots here, like myself. Like you said, I'm from Denver, Colorado. I grew up there. Originally, I was born in Mexico, in Jerez, Zacatecas, in central Mexico. It's also the silver state. Zacatecas is the silver state of Mexico.
That's insane because Nevada's a silver state, right? So people don't know. That's insane. You move from a silver state to a silver state. That's crazy.
Well, the way I would explain Nevada is that Nevada was founded by these miners and these railroad owners, right? And they did a really fantastic job of protecting their interest in the founding of this state. So after Aztlan, after they took it from Mexico, and they founded it.
Speaking of, how do you say Nevada? Do you say Nevada or you say Nevada?
Well, in English, in Spanish is Nevada, but in English, the proper way to say it, and I learned in 2016 how to say it because I wanted to fit in.
Trump did too.
Nevada, but he still doesn't get it. It's Nevada.
Yeah.
Folks will say Nevada, and that's the wrong way. Don't say it. you'll get kicked out of here.
Yeah.
Say Nevada,
But
Nevada,
that historically speaking, that is the proper way to say it, Nevada.
Nevada.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right. So keep going.
And what we're seeing right now is the governor only has certain tools, and because our legislature only meets every other year, and then when they do meet to fix the budget and anything, they only meet for 4 months. That's not a lot. That's not a lot of time to talk about the things that we see we need right now: unemployment insurance programs, a system for unemployment insurance, a safety net. The government has suffered now because of decades of Republican controlled leadership, and looking at the funded the way the state was founded, gaming and mining, largest producers of wealth in this state, don't pay any taxes. That means that when we're hit with a crisis, you know, they already liquidated the money that we did have for an emergency, and now there's no revenue coming in. So this state is learning the hard way that because they've ignored creating a safety net here, they're going to come back next session and they can't be. And we're making sure that our members, they're going to make sure that elected officials is not going to be what they're saying is that they're going to cut everything back. No, what we need is make the folks who are producing the most wealth in this country. They didn't shut down. The mines didn't shut down. The wealth. They're the fifth largest producers of gold in the world.
Yeah, Nevada makes a lot of like minerals, right? It's like the leading producer of some other mineral.
Yeah, and they're producing trillions of dollars of wealth, and none of it stays here. None of it's for the people that live here.
And something like Nevada is like something like 55% federally owned too.
Yeah, it impacts our environment here, the ecosystem, and around climate justice. Nevada is a really important part of that work. And these folks, in terms of mining and gaming, they're not paying their fair share, and it's time for them to pay up, because if they don't, it just exacerbates the suffering.
I just heard a Indian journalist on Democracy Now! This morning. He said that the pandemic is giving an autopsy of neoliberalism.
There you go.
Neoliberalism is dead and rotting, and now the pandemic is showing you, okay, this is the autopsy, right? This is how fragile, because you're an activist and I'm a writer, and you would tell people like, the system sucks, it's not working, and people are like, what do you mean it's not working? The Kardashians are doing great, everybody's balling, right? This is the greatest system that ever was, and you're like, no, right. But underneath there's all these, there's people who are living paycheck to paycheck, people who have their healthcare plan tied to their employment, right? This is all fragile. And now that right. It's collapsed, you see, that people say, why are black people and brown people and Navajo Nation, why are they suffering from pandemic more than anybody else? But they've been suffering all along from everything.
Right. So this is shining a light on the importance of the safety net that we need to build, that prosperity can be for everyone. And there's no reason one person should be a trillionaire.
How many masks, how many ventilators is he able to supply, right? And doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. And actually does the opposite. Actually takes away hazard pay.
Right.
Takes away rights at the workplace. It's wrong. And that's why I think the fact that I have the opportunity today to lead this car caravan, a socially safe and distant protest.
Yeah, when I got to so let me explain to people what happened, right? I got to this parking lot. Where was the parking lot? It was a group that was helping you guys out, right?
Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada helped us out.
Plan,
and
right?
A safe place for us to gather safely, and nobody got out of their car.
And you guys were people would drive up and make the road. Nevada organizers would help decorate their cars while they stayed in their car.
With the windows wouldn't go down.
Yeah, you had on your car relief for all, right? Or cancel rent or cancel mortgage and make them pay. And then we went in a long line, long caravan all the way to Trump casino, hotel and casino. And
I think it's
one of
just
these
actually just
caravan
a hotel.
protests.
It's just a hotel. I don't think Trump. I don't know. Did he get a?
Oh, he didn't. He didn't get a casino. Like you're so right. That's
It's
one
just
of
a
those
hotel.
things that you learn, but you learn so much that you forget so many things. But yeah, he didn't get a casino license because of what happened in New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Because no, do you ever go there? Have you ever been inside? I've never been inside.
Hell no. I
Yeah,
would never.
I don't know anybody who goes there. It's never popping. There's never any events there. I don't know what it does.
Yeah. They advertise this spa or something, but
Ah, I get
I
that.
wonder what it's all about. Looks like a pretty cheap hotel to me.
So we were getting to your story, and that was you we were I was at covering the you guys on the Vegas debates, Democratic debates in February at Make the Roads location. You guys had a viewing party, which was so cool because you guys were playing debate bingo, and it was bilingual. What I loved in the commercials, you had what's his name? I just saw him today too. He
Jose
was
Macia.
Yeah, he was leading it and saying that he would ask the crowd like, so what kind of things did you hear discussed? And old ladies, viejitas and tias, who you
Yeah.
don't think are politically aware, are saying
Right.
they were talking about the wall, or they were talking about taxes and stuff like that. So it's a great way to get people engaged. But anyway, so in the
Yeah.
parking lot, we had a conversation, and I wanted to know. I asked you what I ask everybody, what I ask everybody on the podcast, like, hey, how are you here? How did you get here? Why are you into politics? And then you told me the story. So take it away.
Well, um, I I remember, my parents are my dad brought me when I was 2 years old. He unfortunately our family was left out of the amnesty in 1986 when it was passed through Ronald Reagan. He was left out of the amnesty on the immigration because the immigration amnesty that legalized millions of people, but he was left out because the work the his employer didn't file some paperwork that they needed to prove his work. He's a welder, and he was also 17 at the time. And his dad, my grandpa, they weren't supportive at all, and they didn't think they were gonna have to stay here. I think they thought they were gonna stay here for a bit and work and then go back to where we're from in Zacatecas in Jerez. It ended up being that my dad, life happens, and he stayed, and he really loves welding, and he found a passion there. Ended up bringing my mom and myself over uh, without inspection. It was the only way for him to be able to reunite us with his family, with our family, and then I just started school like normal. I went to um, I went to kindergarten. I still remember kindergarten. I love my kindergarten teacher in LA.
But because you didn't know anything about your status, right? Like
I
most
didn't know
kids.
anything. I was 2 years old. I didn't know anything about status or anything. I grew up just like any other kid, and then
You must have been like, this is a weird part of Mexico.
right, I don't know what I was thinking other
You know what I
than
mean? Like when you're a kid, you don't understand about countries. Like everything's the same. You don't understand about
whoever's
borders.
whoever's there supporting you, whoever's there as your teacher, whoever's there at school. You go with the motions, right? And we don't choose where we're born or
Right.
what we're born
Or where
into,
we're taken as kids.
where we're taken or anything. And my dad did really well. My dad did really well for himself, being undocumented. He had a roof over our heads. He kept us fed, and not only that, we also, we got to enjoy the life of being in LA and going to Universal Studios. And I still have a lot of pictures about some of those places like Disneyland and things like that. And my dad was doing great for himself and for our family, supporting us. And it wasn't until high school, actually, I would say middle school, because in middle school, my mom and my dad were having some issues, and my mom really wanted to see her family, so I went with her and my little brother back to Mexico, and I went to school there for the first time, and I didn't speak Spanish well at all. So that was a really scary time, being in a country that, even though I'm from there, I wasn't accepted really by them. If it wasn't for my soccer skills, I don't know how I would have done it through that.
Wow, that's crazy. Because you would have
And
been a real fucking gringo, right? If you didn't know soccer, you didn't speak Spanish.
right, right. So my Spanish was all mucho, and I didn't, but it helped me a lot because that time, then I picked it up. I picked up the Spanish, and it was there that time. It was only a 3-month trip, But something happened in my brain where when I came back to the States, I saw life differently, and I was in middle school by then. And I had crossed the border, uh, through the desert. It took 4 days walking through the
On
desert,
the way back?
and then it was a lot of drive back. And it was a really scary situation. I was 12. Um, we were in the back of a pickup truck, and like sardines with 30 other people in a truck, just trying to get back. I was trying to get back in time for school to start the school year here in the States. And I end up in Colorado. Um, I was bullied a lot um, because then I was all into, I had missed what was going on here with the culture.
And middle school is a
And
big time, man. Shit changes.
yeah, and I had missed everything. I pretty much missed a whole year of like culture. And I was a different person when I came back. And I was really proud of my Spanish, and I was really proud of my culture. So I brought that with me, but it was shut down by the other kids. It was shut down. I was called names. I was called wetback, mojado, all these things I've never heard before. So then, as a defense
Let
mechanism,
me ask you something. Any Latinos too did that?
it was actually Latinos. It was English speaking Latinos who treated me like that, and then as a defense mechanism, I dyed my hair. At the time, I think NSYNC was around, Backstreet Boys, all that. I dyed my hair, had blonde
Orange. I
teeth.
did orange too.
Yeah, and it was just more like fitting in. I changed
Right.
my name.
You
I
changed your
didn't.
name?
I changed my name to everybody around me. I was Eddie. I was
Wow.
Eddie. I was known as Eddie. If you ask people back then, if I see them around one day, like if they remember my face or something, they'll call me Eddie. And that went all through high school.
I have a
And
cousin. His name's Uriel. So obviously he had to get a nickname, and he everybody called him Oreo. I didn't call him Oreo. He was my cousin. I called him Junior because his dad was Uriel también.
yeah,
But
my name is Eduardo, but there's a couple R's in there that you know easy to make fun of for folks, and
oh, so Eddie's not so bad. It's not from Uriel to Oreo.
nah, but it was a defense mechanism for me, and
Right.
and it wasn't me. Nobody has known me as Eddie in my
Yeah,
family.
you didn't want to be called Eddie.
In my family, I'm Lalito, Lalo. My dad is Lalo, and to them in my family, I'm Lalito. And and then in high school, ninth grade comes around. I love ninth grade. I had a great time. But then 10th grade, once it was getting ready for me to actually have the opportunity to work, I had, all of my other friends were having the opportunities to work at a theme park or wherever,
Yeah.
and they were getting their driving permits.
Right.
But then that's when it hit me. I went to the career day at our school. I said I wanted to be a broadcaster, and I went to that school. I wanted to apply, and they looked at me, and the recruiter said, "Well, here's the form. Apply. You'd be great. You're bilingual. It'd be great." And then I said, "Hey, one of the questions that is, provide your social security number." I don't know I was just, I was just gonna make it up.
¿Qué, right?
I was like, ¿qué? ¿Y eso qué es? And she was like, well, just go wait in line at the social security office, or ask your mom. Call your mom right now. Uh, and I was like a deer in the headlights, and I just felt the weight of the world just fall on me. And I remember that day so clearly in my head. I imagine this person being, as I look back in memories, she looked like she was 10 times bigger than me, and just looking down on me. And she took my form and she put it in a packet of other forms that didn't have the social. And I didn't know what to do. I felt all the doors closing. At the time, all my teachers were saying, well, apply for FAFSA and apply for all these programs. And why don't your parents come to this meeting about college? And I was like, because I can't go. And, it was tough to get out of that feeling that it was just me. I thought it was just me. And my other friends, también, they found out the same day. And they were much better students than I was. I had AP psychology in one of the classes, and one of my favorite classes. And
Me too. I took AP Psych too. That's why I wanted to go to college to do Psych after that.
and that's awesome. And Yeah, I loved everything. I loved all about that. I love hypnosis. I've always been fascinated by hypnosis. I'm scared to do it again. I actually was hypnotized once, and
Oh yeah, did it work?
it worked. I they made me bite into an onion, and it tasted like an apple. It was sweet.
So it really works because, like, as somebody who's watching, I'm always thinking like, oh, they're in on it. They told them before the show, blah blah blah.
No, I've never experienced something like that before. It was amazing. Like I couldn't believe this was happening in front of my very eyes. Like
Damn.
it was happening to me,
Yeah, it's
and I was,
crazy.
how am I? I hate onion. I don't like raw onion,
Same
and
thing
I
with
was
my wife, dude.
best apple I've ever had, but it was an onion, and
Ew.
everybody was looking at me like, "You got to be in on this." I
Right,
how?
right, right.
Yeah, and it was those students around me that we actually started. They actually invited me to talk about what was happening. They said, "Hey, you know, we also found out they were the top of the class, so they said we also found out about our legal status, and would you like to come to a meeting to talk about it?" And it was at an organization back then called Padres Unidos, Parents United in Denver. And by then, they had already been around for a long time, at least 10 years, and they had they were fighting for education, educational justice, and immigration reform, and those things. And that's where I learned what what was happening to me. That's when I learned that it's not my parents' fault. That's when I learned that it wasn't just me, that it was so many, pretty much all of us in my high school, in my class, we were undocumented. And the most devastating part about all this is that they were the top of their class and they had been given scholarships, full rides, and they took it away from them 3 weeks before graduating. They had already
Jesus.
planned their parties, they had already planned, and they took away their scholarship because of that 9-digit number. Thankfully, um, they were seniors, I was a junior. Because of their stories, because they fought back, I was able to get some money, some scholarships. Um, After that, thankfully too, because they fought back and because we did everything to start a youth chapter of for justice there in our school.
Yeah, you start active. You start being an
We started,
activist in
yeah,
high
we
school
started.
because of your status, and it's really.
Yeah,
I mean, you're a kid. You're in high school, so you're not thinking like grand ideas. You're thinking like this is fucked up, and
yeah,
other people, my classmates are going through the same shit. We need to organize.
yeah. So then this thing came up, the Dream Act, and we joined on that. He said, the Dream Act is a law that's never been passed. It's been voted on many times, never gets through to the president's desk. Um, the most frustrating thing ever. I'm 33 now, and I'm talking to you about this activism that started in 10th grade in high school. Now my daughter, she's up here. She's 2 months there. She's 11 now, and I'm still in this uncertainty, and our family's still affected, and not just me, but millions of people. This immigration system has been broken on purpose, um, and we're still fighting. So
Yeah, I was saying the other day. I mean, they make things illegal to make it cheap. Like we were watching the Dirty Money documentary, and they were talking about the gold in Peru and how they use it to launder drugs. That's the reason why cocaine is illegal, and that's the reason why that there's illegal mining in Peru. Because if those were legal, if Peru was able to legally sell its gold and its cocaine, Peru would be very rich. And if there weren't undocumented immigrants, if everybody came here and had status, you couldn't exploit them. You would have to pay them a fair wage. You'd have to give them fair working conditions, housing, every benefits. Treat them like human beings. We make them illegal. We give them a legal status so that we can exploit them.
yeah, and these are all the things that were coming to my mind when I was in 10th grade,
Right.
and I was like,
Most kids are
what?
just worried about like college, just basic stuff.
All of a sudden, nothing else mattered. Everything was about status. Everything was about legal status. Everything was about what is justice. And
Oof.
thankfully, I was I was I was brought into a space where elders in my community were there for me. As I was falling, they caught me. We're talking about people who worked with Dolores Huerta, who worked with Nita Gonzalez. I worked with Nita Gonzalez. Anita Gonzalez was the principal of a school next to mine, and that school was fought for by Rodolfo Corqui Gonzalez. This is a
Who was
Chicano,
big in Colorado, right?
right? The Chicano moratorium, the Chicano movement. There was a lot around that. I found that space. I found people who invested their leadership and their passion for justice in me. And when they did that, one of those people too was Dr. Vincent Harding. He organized with the greatest leaders of our time, Martin Luther King and others, uh, when they were really young too. And I'm talking to them now, they're in their 70s, right? And at that time, and they're investing time in me. Yeah. And because I was able to, the organization Padres Unidos was able to help us get attention to our cause. And then all of a sudden, people started coming to us to support us. And we started to build a strong movement there. And it took 10 years for us to then find the perfect time to pressure Obama at the time when he was fighting, when he was, not fighting, but in the race against Romney in 2012. We took over his office, not just there, but in 16 other cities.
That's when he passed DACA, right? That's when he passed it.
DACA, but we didn't know that was going to happen. We just knew this was the right time to apply some pressure, because by then he had deported more people than any other president ever.
Still, right? I mean, I don't think Trump deports as much as him.
Nope. And we branded him deporter in chief, and we were under fire. Someone as big as Obama, who's so charismatic and says all the right things, was helpful in creating that Bush-Obama system, and then the Biden-Obama version. Bush and Dick Cheney created this, this deportation machine, and then Obama Biden put it on steroids, and then handed it.
I always remind people too, Bill Clinton started building the wall on the border in the 90s.
And it was Bill Clinton that took away any sort of solution to this immigration system. It was Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And when we look back, the folks who did talk and actually saw the value of immigrants was actually Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And then everything is,
I don't know if it's because he was from he was governor of California, so he must have known that, like, okay, these people are here, right, and we can't just ignore them, and they're such a valuable part of the economy.
So then all this is happening to me, and I'm just growing up in this world, and I'm in 10th grade, and all of a sudden I'm on TV, and all of a sudden it's, can you do this? Can you talk about this? And all of a sudden I'm in front of panels, and I'm in front of people in Congress. And
when did you talk before Congress?
Well, back then, our Congress members in Colorado, and then I actually have a really good relationship. He's a senator now, but he used to be my superintendent at school.
Wow.
Michael Bennett. There's so much that happened when I was opening my eyes to what the impact of imperialism and this imperialism that we're living through and our effects on the rest of the world. That when I talked to Vincent Harding, Dr. Vincent Harding, Uncle Harding, he brought me in, introduced me to other folks who were fighting in this movement. He gave me that race class analysis. And this was all happening before I even graduated high school.
Right.
And I had these gifts from him, and he shared these stories with me. And then at the same time, I'm still in high school, and I'm not getting the best education either. My school was one of the lowest ranked, the highest dropout rate. We exposed all that in our school. And it's crazy because that group I'm telling you of friends, not only did we talk about immigration and the need for that, but we also talked about college preparation for all. And we actually had all of our teachers reapply for their jobs, and we got rid of our principal. And that happened within that time of activism.
And this is a high school that's a high dropout rate, so they're not supposed to be intelligent, and here they're getting rid of their principal.
Yeah, we turned all that upside down and had students in the lead. And now that school, and the first victory, I always love telling the story. The first time I felt what advocacy is about, the first time it was like, now I call it the Candy Crush moment. Candy Crush, when you move that candy and then all the colors explode and then you pass the level.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
My Candy Crush moment back then was all the students who spoke Spanish were in one hallway of the school, and they were separated from the rest of the school. You know, there wasn't events for them. Whenever we had a party, there was no cumbias, there was no norteñas. Whenever there was a dance at the school, like homecoming or whatever, there was nothing like that. It was all very like it's just hip hop and English music. But where were the cumbias? Where were the bandas? Right?
In a state with a Spanish name.
Yeah. Where's our gente? We make up the majority of school. Why aren't we represented? And the first thing we did is we came up to the principal. We said, "Hey, we really need to. We need we need bilingual announcements. We need the announcements in Spanish because they don't know. They don't know what's going on in the school."
Right.
And we found some rules, some laws, some policies in the school district, and we threatened them with a lawsuit unless they changed it. And they did. Not only did they change the school announcements in the mornings, and man, it was so crazy because the other kids were like, "Well, now you just made it worse because we have to hear this in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish." And we're like, "No, this is about including everyone. We're an
Right.
inclusive school." We won, and not only did they make the announcements bilingual, but now since that time, this is the only school I know of. I know there's more. I know here in Las Vegas they do. I think Rancho High School does something similar, but their school graduations are fully bilingual.
Ooh,
And since
wow.
then, that's still the case.
That's
And
crazy.
that's the first time I felt what advocacy was about, what calling for something, what a victory means. And it changed things around me. And then that's when it just kept leading to more and more wins, more victories for us as a youth club, youth support system, basically. And it gave us a taste of what power means. And the people around me showed me that when you are given a seat at the table, remember who brought you there and share that power.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's how I lead my life, and that's how I lead my work. And as a supervisor now that I have an opportunity, it's all about sharing power.
yeah, I mean, you if you listen to the old timers, like the activists who've been in it, like who you're talking about,
Jorge
Corky
Gonzalez,
Gonzalez and the
Vincent Harding.
Doctor Vincent Harding. They'll tell you. I mean, they all say like it's a chain. Like you're pushing for a victory, right? But almost, I mean, you're an activist, so maybe you can tell me. But like, there's two things, right? One, if you talk to the average person, even the average Latino, they'll say to about activist Latinos like, why are they making a noise? Nothing's gonna change. That's the way it is. Keep your head down. Try to survive. Take care of your family. Blah blah blah. Nothing's gonna change. There's no power. There's no people
Oh
power.
yeah, yeah,
Two, the old timers will say, yeah, you're pushing for a victory, but activism is almost not about the victory. It's about the movement. It's about a chain, and when the next generation comes, it's their torch to pick up, right? And they keep going with it.
exactly. And it's about the next generation empowering the folks behind you. So I found out, even being undocumented, that I could write a grant to pay my way into leadership development. You know, I was able to figure out through the organization, hey, like if we put together a program for leadership development and what's your goal and policy wise, you can actually write a grant to support you in that work. And then I became a paid youth organizer in my own high school after graduation. And I was able to pay my way and support my family like that, despite being undocumented. And being undocumented just became this. It didn't become something that stopped me. It became something that empowered me, and it became something that I wanted to make sure that a number doesn't define anyone. A legal status doesn't define you or your dreams. It's about you're somebody who has unlimited potential, and everything's possible. And but you do need those mentors. You do need
Oh
to
yeah.
listen. You do need to learn from the past, but then re-envision what you want the future to look like, and don't stay stuck in the what you want it to look like. Just do something every day to help you get there.
Yeah, I mean that mentor thing is really important. Like having somebody who's been doing it and just saying, "Hey, just stand by me, see how I do it. You learn, and then you can take it and make it your own." Right? That's so
Yeah.
important.
And
Uh,
oh, something that happened to me in high school too was um, being undocumented. It also opens up a lot of possibilities for you to be criminalized. In our schools right now, you have the school to prison to deportation pipeline. In my high school, I saw cops running students down, running my friends down with a gun, chasing them after with a gun. And I was in 11th grade when I saw this. And I could not believe that this was where I was at. But everyone else was that was so normal to everyone else.
right. Listen to the
And I
police.
was
Whatever the
scared
police tell
for
you to do is okay. Whatever they
I
do
was
is
scared for
legal.
my life. And I was scared that every morning the first person we saw going into school was a cop. So then I became a huge advocate to reform our school discipline policy, and I took that on. I took that every opportunity to talk about it, and we ended up not only reforming our school discipline policies, but we reformed the school district as well, the state policies as well, and even impacted nationwide. And now we're still doing that work here now in Nevada, um, because the less funding you have in the schools, the more funding there is for cops,
Yeah, there you go.
and we're demanding counselors, not cops.
Well, and especially since these you're exactly right. I mean these districts, especially Clark County, say we don't have money for this, that, but then they have a police liaison in every school, or probably two. There was two in mine.
Yeah.
Um,
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school in Chicago, outside of
Oh yeah.
in this place called Wheeling. It was Mexican immigrants, Polish, Russian, black, and white. We had a lot of Latinos, but again, it was a school, and anybody from Wheeling can maybe remembers this. There was I would call it an unofficial policy that you couldn't talk Spanish in the hallways, because their reasoning was it's unfair to the non-Spanish speaking students who feel like they're left out, or they feel like they're being insulted behind their back or to their face, but they don't understand it. That's a weird thing to say. That's a weird thing to say. You know what I
That
mean?
happened to me too. That happened to me too, and it requires structural change. Requires structural change, and then they got to be committed to the structural change, and then you hit the cultural change. But you got to make it structural first, and you got to have leaders within the school system who believe in it. And if they're not the ones, you got to get rid of them.
So I mean, tell me, about your work specifically as a political director at Make the Road, and tell me about Make the Road. I mean, tell people about Make the Road.
We're in East Las Vegas. 80% of the Latinx, because I don't want to say Latinx either. I heard a term that they use in Latin America for an inclusive, because in the Spanish language, it's so binary, Latino, Latina. Um, and I heard the other day Latinx, that the Latine, instead of Latinx. Latinx was something made up here by some gringos. So how do we be inclusive with the language and with the communities? Because it's not just Mexico. It's South America is Central America, and we're all
Latine, like what? E with an accent?
with the E. Yeah, I don't think it has an accent. I just heard it the other day, but
Latine.
something I'm going to look into.
That's
I
better
want to
than
do.
Latinx. I mean, I wrote a whole thing, and it's still very popular on Latino Rebels. I wrote some professors wrote the case for Latinx, and I was editor at the time. I published it, but then I wrote my own rebuttal. I said the case against. I called it the Xing of language. Like, yeah, it's colonialism.
We should
It's
talk
with the
about that.
gringos here. It's the gringos here, or even like the gringified Latinos. Like, we can talk about that. The people who were bullying you when you came back from Mexico, right? The gringified Latinos here is telling the rest of Latin America that their language, again, it's colonial, it's linguistic colonialism, right? It's
We
your
were already,
language is faulty. It's
we
it's
were already here.
it's sexist, and we're gonna tell you what words you can use now, right? Get the fuck
Yeah.
out of here, man.
So the 80% of the Latine community lives on the east side of Las Vegas, um, and then you got the north side. And Make the Road, Nevada, comes from, like I mentioned to you earlier, Route 91. The shooting happened, and when the shooting happened, there was, in our estimates, 140 undocumented workers that night, cleaning tables, cleaning ketchup off the tables, throwing the trash away, uh, processing tickets, and then the shooting happens. And this horror scene that they tell. And it was not just Make the Road, but other organizations locally, even Planned Parenthood. Um, we're a tight knit community in terms of the activist community in Nevada, and they were out there translating the testimonies for them, because when folks went for help the day after, that night, as this was happening, they were turned away by city agencies because of their language, because they're not speaking English. You know how they set up something at Sam Boyd Stadium or something? I don't know where it was, but they set up something at some place like a triage center, and they were turned away. They were turned into right. It was called BBB, Behavioral Services back then. Now it's Silver State Mental Health Services, and that's where they had the opportunity to share what happened, but they needed translators. So Leo Murgueta, who's our executive director, and Jose Macias, who founder of Make the Road as an organizer, the first organizer hired, they were there to help people translate their testimonies, because we knew, because they were a part of they could possibly qualify for a U visa. If you are undocumented in this country and a crime is committed against you, you can, there's opportunities to fix your status, right? And that happened to them. And when they were going through this, they found a space at Make the Road to push for that, not only to heal together, but then to push for something more, because through their discussions, they figured, if I do get a U visa and I get a legal status and the opportunity to become a citizen, that social is only going to get me so far. I still need a job with dignity. I still need fair wages. It's not enough to then get legal status. And then they started to talk about, we need paid sick days. We need tenant protections. We need healthcare. Even if you have papers, there's no healthcare. So that space that became Make the Road a place for a safe space. To then, after a year since the shooting, you had what they deemed themselves as the forgotten survivors, and they were able to organize themselves and push Sheriff Arpaio, who waited until election day to meet with them. Didn't meet with them before election day. Wins the election, then meets with them. Tells them, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know that the person that was working on the U visa cases was off. That hasn't been working. But you know what? Here's 4 or 5 senior officials, and they're going to process the U visa cases." And he had to sign on each testimony to get the thing moving, to get the U visa process moving. So now there's about 64 people who are going through that. But that happened because they organized, because they fought back, and they moved Sheriff what's his name right now? I'm forgetting. I don't want to say it. I was going to say Arpaio.
Not Arpaio, but you mean the one here?
Yeah.
His name.
I forget his name right now.
Yeah, but sheriff, Clark County sheriff.
Yeah.
But that's beautiful, man, because you basically providing these people with that kind of when you were describing it before back in Colorado, the federal government, the government doesn't provide a social safety net for Latinos and Black people, right? But specifically Latinos, as we're talking here, and so. The people in Colorado already, the activists in Colorado had a safety net. The community itself had a safety net ready for you to catch you, somebody like you, right? And then you got caught by it, and you're like, oh, what is this? And then you meet all these activists, and they're like, oh, this is a safety net that we've created for people like you. And now you're going around doing that, right? You're showing people how to make their own safety net.
So it's been Sheriff Lombardo. I've also had campaigns against Sheriff Arpaio growing up, against SB 1070, Show Me Your Papers law, massive protests that I had the chance to be a part of. I don't know if you remember those, but those were
he was like the first Trump in a way. He was the first guy coming out just saying anti-immigrant, anti-Latino stuff. He got
the first Trump pardon.
Right. So I mean, yeah, he's basically Trump's sheriff, if you can, right?
Yeah, and yeah, and it's so we have Sheriff Lombardo here who finally listened, finally moved, and then the that community then developed into more advocacy, and now they've been a part of bigger victories. And when you met them, they had gone through months of a process of understanding all the things that we've been talking about today, and how neoliberalism affects them, and how does it affect us in Las Vegas, and who are these people who are going to run for office, and what are they saying? How could we make an impact with them so that they listen to us, and that when they get to these positions of power, they're going to be accountable to us. And for them, it's about long-term power building. To them, it doesn't matter who the next president is. To them, it's about how are we building power long term. And like you said, protecting ourselves locally so that we can stop ICE. We stop Trump's attempts at dividing us. We stop Trump's attempts at separating families. And that's what Make the Road Nevada is about. Like you said, it's opening opportunities for people to find their voice and help other people find it, and then build enough of a movement where, like you saw that night, it was a landslide. It went for Bernie after they had endorsed, and you could really see that their demands for citizenship for all, ending the school to prison pipeline, healthcare access for all, it was accepted in Nevada.
Yeah.
Biden ended up fourth, Bernie got first, and then now, that was Nevada. Then it goes on to the next Super Tuesday and everything, now it shakes out a different way. But what's interesting is you still have the possibility of influence in the Biden campaign because of that power, because of the power that's built in Nevada.
And Nevada's such a battleground state, right? So, and yeah. I mean, I'll just throw it out there. One, it was so inspiring to be with those. Most of the canvassers were kids. Some of them came just from school, from high school,
right?
And they were all passionate. I mean, you guys had this little. I sat in this little circle that kind of like a prep before the canvassing, and everybody went around and told their story. There was undocumented kids or kids from undocumented parents, people who had stories. People started breaking down, crying. And I got grouped with some kids, and they're very passionate, man. And it's the same thing that happened to you, right? And the same thing that happens to anybody, right? When you realize your own power, when you exercise a little bit of your power, because the system brainwashes you into thinking that you're helpless, that you can't do anything, that you're stupid, that you're powerless, right? And so when you get to exercise a little bit of your power, a little tiny bit, right? Like, you guys are threatening to get you guys got rid of your principal, something small, right? Something bilingual announcements, right?
Yeah.
Something small, right? But then it opens your eyes, like, oh fuck, I didn't know I had that muscle. Let me work this muscle out, and then you start, like the people in Nevada, like you were talking about, like after the massacre, they're starting saying, well, I also need this, I also need that, I also need that. So see, they start looking at, oh, my life can be better. It's gonna take esfuerzo, right? It's gonna take a push, but you could do it.
A lot. Si se puede. And we end every meeting with si se puede. Yes, we can. In unity. And it's a beautiful space. Right now, we moved the space virtually for now to keep our family safe. But once we open up again, I'm sure it'll be more the same. It's just that now we're living digitally, and it's really empowering too, because we're teaching folks who've never had to use a Zoom account and emails, folks who are our grandparents or our dad and our moms, right? We're teaching them how to communicate in this new normal for now. And we're still moving the power. And what's really cool is we have the C3 organization, which is Make the Road Nevada, which is our, the C4 side is what you came into with Make the Road Action.
Right.
That's who was engaged in that way, coming up with endorsements and coming up with really flexing their electoral muscle. So as a political director, I'm in charge of both operations, both organizations. And yes, it's a lot of work, but it's every day is something I'm really proud. There's always something I can find in my day that I'm really proud of. It's a conversation with somebody who actually spoke today. You heard Suzette. She shared her story I've never met her in my life,
That's crazy.
but we met last night, and she stepped into her power today and inspired so many more families who also couldn't afford to pay the rent in April or May, and they're seeing her speaking up, and she inspired thousands of people today.
And
And
she's probably feeling herself right now, right? She's probably floating, right? Like I did something, I did some good, and now everybody she's talking to right now, they're like, oh shit, this is like I should get involved too, you know?
yeah, so that's the hope, is to continue building that and build a safe space, and then in the future, where we're building for towards is provide more services, and that's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of work.
What are the specific things immediate that you think needs to happen in Vegas? We'll end on that.
Immediately immediately what we need right now, we need cash assistance relief for all the folks who've been left out. We're doing everything we can to get a fund going, and hopefully I'll be able to share with you some good news later. So that's really important. We're pressuring the governor to do more for the families also, for all the ones who've been left out. We're also setting up a system to provide for folks help with unemployment insurance, um, helping them navigate that system. We're looking at the immediate needs, and then we're also looking at what is going to be our policy platform for 2021, and potentially a special session before then. So we're looking at everything, and there's a large staff now that everyone is all in and doing everything we can to support the members in this time, support the community at this time. And I unfortunately I do have to leave soon.
All right, yeah,
So
no, we're wrapping up. Let everybody know where they can find you, man.
oh yeah, please reach out to us. Make the road nv.org. Make the road NV is the handle on social media. For our C4 side, it's Make Road Act NV on the Twitter. But on our Instagram, you'll see the content is really, it's fire. That content that the members produce, it's fire. They're all into TikToks now too. Like I was telling you, that now we have a youth power project. So if you are a youth out there who wants to step into your power, check it out.
Definitely hit up Make the Road, man, because they really know how to get organizing. They really do, and that's so important to know how to do that.
So that's next for us. We're gonna fight, continue fighting. The fight's not over. Our fight only becomes more clear. The clearer we are in knowing what we're fighting for, the better we can improve our lives. So
well said, man. It's been a real honor and a real privilege getting to know you, man. You're inspiring. Keep up the good work. Let me know how I can help, man. You know, I'm here in Vegas too, so let me know how, if you need me to show up somewhere or whatever. Okay?
Yeah, one of the biggest things right now, we have the Las Vegas Dreamer Fund. We're the only fund in the state for folks to donate to DACA renewals. We're awaiting a decision on the DACA program from the Supreme Court of the United States. It's not looking good.
I have DACA. My in-laws are DACA, you know, and my wife was a dreamer from 2 until I married her when she was 25. So
we have a Dreamers Fund. If folks want to go there, that's one way you can help with $1, $5, anything you can. It adds up. And we've been able to cover hundreds of DACA renewals because of that. So please help us. It's a big expense that folks just don't have the money for right now. And please help us get that going.
And the way I see it, man, you know, the subscriptions with Netflix and all that stuff, you can afford to give, you know, $5, $10 a month, man, especially to a good cause. Don't give it to fucking Netflix.
You can become a member, and yeah, let's make it happen. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks, man.
We'll stay in touch. Hopefully we can talk about more things later on.
For sure. Peace, man.